Hello everyone, welcome back. As you can see, this is one of the rare videos where I'm actually seated down. This is because it's just after Comiket on Sunday, which basically means that I have been walking quite a fair bit for the last 2 days with 4 hours of sleep a day. So suffice to say, I'm not running on empty just yet, but we are getting there bit by bit. But that said, Comiket 108 is over today, or well, it will be over in an hour from when I'm making this video. And so I figured it'll be a good time as any to talk about all of the interesting things, hopefully, that I saw and that happened at Comiket this time. So when it comes to the bigger series in terms of like IPs or genres within the event, that hasn't actually changed much at all. The 5 are still Blue Archive at the top, VTubing in second, Idolmaster in third, Uma Musume in fourth, and Typhoon in fifth. Usually the fifth does flicker a little bit where Toho suddenly makes a rise in and out, but from what I understand, some of the Toho circles were actually having events externally on the last day as well. So on the day where Toho was supposed to be the most plenty, they actually weren't there as much. So maybe that is part of why things actually ended up being a little less hype this time around. That said, while these 5 series were still at the very top of the event, the total proportion of the event that they occupied had actually decreased. So all of the bigger series and IPs, including Toho, all saw a reduction in the total proportion compared to everything else in the event that they occupied. And in its place, more general content has started to fill up the space itself. So basically, when I say general, it really does mean all of the general hobbyist stuff as well. So things like your food reviews, tour reviews, people who do like photo shoots of animals, putting up their stuff, everything in general that is very hard to classify as anything else, the hobbyist stuff as well as the random stuff that you wouldn't know how best to arrange, has all saw an increase instead, which to me is kind of a good thing as well, since it is the kind of event where I would want to see more of this kind of like random thing, since it's supposed to be an all genre event. So it would make sense for there to be more of all that they can get into it, and I feel like it does in a way embody the spirit of the event a little more. That said though, when I say the proportion decrease, it's mostly like a 1% at most proportion change. So for series that are already fairly big, most of them aren't really, let's say, taking much of a hit. It's just that more that everyone else gets a bit more of a chance to shine as well. So personally, I see that as a win. That said, speaking of things that are fairly new this time around, this first one, I mean, it's more of a personal thing perhaps. It may not have to do with specifically the event itself, but this might actually have been the most cool Comiket that I've seen in the past like 10 plus years that I have been going to Comiket. And yes, the pun is intended. I mean cool in all of the multiple ways, because we're all real cool. And the weather was real cool as well. Because for real, I think this might have been the first time I've actually seen the temperature go below 25 degrees during Comiket itself, at the very least in the morning. On average, the temperature at Comiket over the last like 12-15 years has been on a very slight increase. Back when I used to go when I was very young and like my age was still like 1 and something, you know, like when I was like 18 or 19, when it got really hot and people were complaining that it was crazy hot. The temperature used to be like 30, 31. But nowadays, especially the last 2 years, it was like 36 and 34 were some of the peaks. And this year, in fact, like 2 weeks before Comiket, in July, the temperature was hitting a peak of 40 degrees in certain parts of Japan. So there was a part of me that was kind of worried about where the temperature would go. But as it would happen, right, literally just before Comiket happened, a typhoon had hit Tokyo. So the temperature actually went down on average, and the 2 days of Comiket, it was also raining or drizzling to some extent. This meant that not only was it cool because of the rain, but it actually pushed it to the point where the mornings were 24 and the peaks were like 30 in like the dead of the afternoon. So it was to the point where while queuing for the event, I actually wasn't sweating at all, especially on the second day. The first day, it started off still a little hot at first, but then the rain came in and then it has been cool the whole time. So both days, the max temperature, according to the weather report, didn't exceed 30, and it was like in the morning 24, 25. I could actually take off my heat protection jacket as well. That's how good it was. Although I had to swap that in for a poncho, and the poncho made me really hot. not in that way. But yeah, so for the people for whom this was their first Comiket, I would say in a way they actually got a very unique experience that is actually not representative of the norm for the past 5 years. So yeah, if you came in, it was really cool. It's also because of the typhoon. It's not usually like this. And yeah, temperature wise, it might actually be the most chill Comiket I have been to. This might actually be the most livable Comiket weather wise that I've ever experienced. And I've been going to this event for like almost 15 years at this point. Speaking of other things that are new this time around as well, there were a bunch of new corporate booths that were there for some of the series or games, I guess. It does feel like a lot of it nowadays is mostly just for mobile games. But yeah, there was a new booth for Project Moon's Limbus Company. I don't think they've ever done one at Comiket till now. I know when the game had its first anniversary, they did a pop-up store banner celebration in the Ikebukuro Animate, but that was about it. They had a booth this time around. Trikcal also had their first booth this time around, so it was cool to see both series actually popping up there. Trikcal in particular, I think it has been blowing up in popularity to some extent within Japan because of that one viral meme with the funny maid brain rot. So yeah, that has brought the series up quite a fair bit. I actually like the booths that both of them made though, because of the fact that with the Project Moon one, at the very least when I was there, the booth seemed simple enough that it felt interesting to look at because you had like physical props for things like the tables and the train itself where you could take pictures in, but it didn't feel overly excessive. Like they didn't bring in like a massive number of like super cool cosplayer babes to like cosplay characters for people to take pictures of. I always felt that to be a little excessive, and I was never really a fan of like them bringing in official cosplayers for this event because it feels like it kind of takes away from what should be the focal point of the event. Like I'm perfectly fine with like fan cosplayers going up and taking pictures and them uplifting the fan cosplayers with like giving them more exposure, not in a sassy way of course, even though this is Comiket, or like, you know, just chilling together with them, because with many of these booths, especially for the visual novel ones, the bosses themselves are down at the event itself. Like I feel like they could have done more of stuff like that instead, and it probably would make for a better experience. With Limbus Company's booth, it was simple enough that it was mostly just a chill. You go in, you take pictures, you do what you want and have fun sort of thing. They were selling goods as well. The Trikcal one was quite lovely. I really like how cute it was. It really embodies the brain rot that Trikcal like embodies in my mind really well, with the Comi spinning tongue thing, as well as the Chihuahua having her own little like speaky Roomba thing going on. Like there were so many videos online of people like going to the specific like Trikcal speaky area and like looking at how dysfunctional everything was. When I actually got there, it was actually fairly rushed. Like you got into a queue, the queue would be almost completely moving non-stop as you walk through the area, and the only time it really stopped was in the speaky part of the booth where you had like 10 seconds, it would stop there and you could take pictures and like a video. It just so happens when I was there was actually a cosplayer in there, and she did such a good job of doing the speaky voice. I don't know if that's the actual Korean like voice actress herself that they got to like kneel there and do the thing, but like she did it so well that it kind of made me like kind of fine with like the whole like having a cosplayer at an event just this once, because she did such a good job of embodying the character in terms of the audio itself that I low-key kind of liked the way it was executed. Granted, they didn't have to have the cosplayer there to do the same thing, so like it did feel a little excessive, but it was tolerable at least. And the last thing for the corporate booths, I guess, since I don't want to put too much time into specifically the corporate side of stuff, I think this Comiket Yostar actually broke the record for the biggest booth at Comiket, I think. Although that's the technicality, since they broke the record for having the biggest booth by basically just having 2 booths instead. So they got the biggest booth space in the West Hall at the very bottom of the hall, and they also took the space beside it. They took the biggest space and they turned it into a complete like sale booth space with like I think like 20 counters or something. Like the number of counters they had in the space was to me kind of shocking. I don't think I've ever seen a company put that many counters in an event like this. Like even at its peak, I think like a typhoon booth would have like 6, maybe 8 tops, and like I don't think I've ever seen a company go above 8 at any time. So like this was quite a surprise. It felt a little excessive. In fact, like I think on the second day there was actually a period where there was just no queue left. You could just walk in with nothing blocking you in like the last 3 hours of the event thereabout. So suffice to say, they did a pretty good job of clearing out the queue itself. For those who are wondering if they just got boycotted or something, it's just for all of Yosta's series in general. So, you know, people were going there for all sorts of different things, and it does seem like, at the very least, for the first day, there was a fairly long queue. Although that was gone by the second day, I guess, mostly because I can imagine the turnover from like getting 20 counters was so great that it got people in and out really quick. And the smaller booth space they got was for Azure Premiere, so yeah, they've been marketing the game for a while. I hope the game comes out good. That said, the booth itself was pretty cool. They had a little blow-up doll, not in a sexual way, of course, of a big cock. Not in a sexual way, of course, at the event itself, and like just the standard like standees as well as some TVs showing off like the character gameplay as well. I mean, they have been doing this for like 2 Comikets at this point, so it's just more like an issue of like, hey, when are you releasing the thing, more so. But nonetheless, it seems they broke the record for having the biggest booth space this time around. That said, please don't do that again. Don't sell goods at Comiket ever again, Yosta. If you watch this, you probably don't. Personally, I actually prefer when companies don't do like Comiket exclusive goods, because, you know, like with something like Kadokawa, most goods that they have on display there are also sold after the event, but with this one specifically, it's not. So, you know, don't do that. It only makes like 90% of the player base in the population feel bad when you do stuff like that and they can't go for the event, especially now when Comiket has a restricted number of people who can enter the event. So it's like people who wanted literally can't physically enter the event to get the thing either. So like, I don't know, man. That said, this time around, I don't think there was any big like drama in terms of like people doing some crazy shit. You know, we don't have Free Run Man, we don't have like the criminal who touched the ever cosplayer or like robbing them and stuff like that. There wasn't any of that. Although I think this was the first time that I got to physically see someone getting into like a fairly heated argument with one of the staff themselves. So what basically happened was that the guy, like, he is Japanese, he was speaking in Japanese to the staff the whole time, and like he doesn't seem to understand how crowd control works. He looks like he's someone who should be old enough to understand what's going on, but apparently maybe it was the heat or the excitement and just like caused him to be kind of out of it or something, because basically what they did was that there was a queue moving forward and they broke a hole in the middle of the queue so that another queue could pass through perpendicular to it. And when the other queue passed through midway, he thought like they were like doing him dirty or something, and he tried to push his way past the queue, and then the person, the staff, had to come in and like stop him, and then they went into a little bit of an argument, and the guy had to constantly tell him to listen to him and like tried to explain to him everything that was happening. Thankfully, it seems like it worked and he calmed down in the end, so yeah, it's a good thing that didn't lead to anything bigger than that. But yeah, you know, just a standard like reminder to everyone, it's not just the people who visit the event from overseas that are weird. Like, all of the cases that go viral seem to be people locally who are doing weird shit as well. But, you know, important thing to remember, don't be weird at the event. You know, don't do things that will cause trouble for others, except shoving people in the hall when the crowds aren't moving, because sometimes you need to give them a little shove so that people understand that they need to break the jam. But aside from that, don't do anything too rough. Like, don't manhandle people when you need to shove them either. Don't go into a ballistic frenzy when like you can't get the things you want. Sometimes it happens. It's just the way it is. You know, the event is kind of still built in a way that the people who go in circles kind of have priority to get the stuff. So, you know, make some circle friends, I guess, if you really want to buy your stuff as quick as possible, because even if you go in like early, sometimes you may not get the stuff that you want. That said, for the circle side of stuff, the doujin circles, overall, I had quite a fair bit of fun. There was still quite a fair variety of stuff, and the only thing that felt a little weird was the sheer number of, not cosplayers, like separate from the cosplayers, there's the cosplay photo booth circles, most of whom like get their own separate space in a separate hall as well. But yeah, it feels like there has been a noticeable trend of an increase in the number of people who look like they're from the JAV industry, like turning up at the event and doing like cosplay photo shoot, like CC adult books as well. And yeah, that part of it, I don't know how to feel about it completely, since like it's not people doing cosplay for the love of the game in the same way, and it takes up such a huge space, it causes such a huge jam because there's actually a demand for it. And then because there's such a huge demand for it, I can't really say too much about it either. But at the same time, you know, I was just trying to look for the circle that was selling their silly shit like the Lapis Lazuli research book, and I couldn't get to it easily because I had to shove my way through all of these circles. So, yeah, that part of the event is a little iffy. Like, I don't know how to feel about it, since it doesn't feel like it's in the spirit of like doujin culture in general, the way that specific side of it is being done. But at the same time, you know, there's a demand for it. If people didn't buy it, it wouldn't be actually there. So yeah, this is food for thought, I guess. But that said, when it comes to the circle stuff overall, I did find some interesting stuff this time around as well. For one thing, the writer for Needy Girl was actually at the event. He was actually there with his own booth where he was basically selling the new game that him and another person actually created. I think the other person that created the game with is an artist, and then they kind of just found a way to deal with the code themselves. But yeah, they made a new virtual novel, and he was there at the event advertising it and also selling a limited pack for it, which I thought was really cool because it actually came in a VHS style box instead. So that actually is quite the aesthetic. There is an actual VHS inside, by the way. Like this is an actual VHS. I'm not kidding. It is a full-on VHS. I don't think you can actually play the game with this. I don't know if there's anything on it because I don't have a fucking VHS player in 2026. But, you know, who knows? Maybe we can try to figure that out and see if that even works in the first place. In case you're wondering, the game actually comes with a DL code, a downloadable code within this as well. So you purchase this, you get the VHS, and you also get the code with it. And aside from that, I did also manage to get him to sign the tapestry that came over it as well. So yeah, that's pretty cool. He was actually at the booth and he was actually like kind of free, so he offered to sign it. And yeah, thank you, Nyada. It was really cool, and I appreciate the signed tapestry. Aside from that, I also have this book, which thankfully there's English on this one, so I don't have to figure out how to explain it to you guys. But it's the, I can't even read the English on it, data book of observed temperature and humidity in sales of Coterier magazines. I don't know what the fuck this word is. Is this French? Like, I don't know what I'm looking at even. Like, someone in the comments tell me what this word means. I don't want to Google it. It sounds like it might be something adult. But yeah, the book itself actually says that it's a book on the humidity and temperature in like doujinshi, like Sokubaikai, which is like the sales events like Comiket and like basically. And this is the one for 2025. And yeah, basically he goes through every single event that he went for and measured every half hour change. Like, it's an actual like half hour change for the temperature as well as the humidity. So if you ever want to figure out how much people are getting excited and sweating in events, I guess this might be a little bit of a help with that. I just thought it seemed kind of funny, and the book itself was a little cheap, so I ended up getting it because of that. But yeah, it's an interesting one, suffice to say. Although that said, because of the fact that, no, it doesn't have it for Comiket, unfortunately, does it? No, he has the humidity for most big events. Like, he went to quite a few different comitiers, Comic 1, Sunshine Creation, more Comic 1s. Like, he went to quite a few events, but he doesn't have like Comiket as one of the ones recorded in the book, which is a little unfortunate because I feel like if an event is going to have very fucked up humidity, like the event that would have the most fucked up humidity would probably be like Summer Comiket, because of the fact that people still report seeing like small sweat clouds forming in the buildings on the top as well. So it would have been nice to know how humid it is. Maybe I should ask him. It does seem like there is a email account here, so I might give that a look at. Another interesting one is that there was a person who basically recorded how the censorship for in the different magazines that exist across Japan are being done now in terms of adult content. So for those of you who are below the age of 18, cover your ears like this. Ow. And don't listen to this part. Skip to the... Oh, shit, you can't hear me now. You skip to the next part of the video below. Yeah, I can't... I mean, I can't show you guys what's in the book at all. But, like, basically the entire book details how every single magazine that deals with adult content in Japan now and in the past, so like even for some of those that have already gone defunct at this point, at the time that they were last printing, like how they censor like all of the different body parts that you cannot show within it. Because for those who are wondering, pixelization is one way you can do it, but there isn't like a fully formalized guideline because of the vagueness of the law. We talked about this in some of the videos talking about like the issue of Frontier, where the restriction on like what is considered to be adult content is kind of vague, and so there is all of that going on where people don't really exactly know what they can do, and all the different magazines just do it their own way instead. And this book is very thorough because it goes through every single magazine in existence, everything from the BL ones all the way to the Yuri Lolly ones and what have you not. Everything everything that they can find in terms of all of the different publications that have any form of content that need to censor out there. They're all like in this fairly thick book over here, which yeah, I don't think it's gonna do anything for most people because of the fact that it's just a book that shows how the censorship has been done across different companies. It's more interesting to me as someone who had to work on it in the past, and like seeing like how they would show, or like how different magazines actually restricted or show it differently depending on like when the magazine last published, or basically like who the target audience is. Like some of them do like a full white blur, some do like black bars and all of that. Like there's many different ways to do it and many different restrictions on how and why things have to be censored. So to me at least, this is an interesting book to like look and compare all of that. But I can't show any of the inside of this book. If you're interested in that for like academic reasons, this might still be interesting. But like if you're looking for something to play a first-person shooter to, this is probably not it, chief. Also, another thing that this is probably gonna like make sense to no one except maybe like one or two people perhaps, but it basically got Okito Endo's new like work that he had released at Comiket this time around. For those of you who know, you probably know Okito Endo also worked on the AU Senki manga, among other things. He's a Ero Dojin mangaka, and he does do like art for some of the light novels as well as like mangas out there as well in the past. So he has been around, he has done quite a fair number of things within the industry, and some of the big names also do follow him if you follow the like eroge or like the visual novel scene as well. But yeah, it's quite impressive, the sheer amount of content in this. Like it's not just an Ero Dojin, like it's a full-on like drama story thing with just like slight bits of erotic content here and there. Like the art he does is in general pretty detailed and pretty nice, and yeah, I've been following some of the stuff he has done ever since the AU Senki manga, which I did help to translate a lot of bit of the fan sub back at the time. But yeah, like in general, the stuff that he does pretty cool overall, and I have yet to get fully into this. Like this is not a compilation book, this is actually like a completely new piece of work that he has made, quite literally about like train conductors. The setting seems to be a little bit of like olden, like maybe Meiji era Japan in a way. But yeah, overall his art style is, to me at least, it's really unique. I do like the details he does, especially like the character designs as well as the colors. Like there's something about the very specific like color theming he uses and the color schemes as well that just makes it very pleasing to me at least. And the same for the character designs themselves and the way he like draws character expressions and the like. So yeah, if you have never seen his work, I do recommend giving him a check out, and I do recommend only doing so if you're above the age of 18. That said, aside from the stuff I bought, there was also some interesting stuff that happened at the event in terms of the Dojin side as well. For one thing, in terms of more fuss for the event, I guess this was the first time that a series book selling out actually hit trending so hard that people made comparisons within Japan, at least back to the Nanoha era, where like back in the days when there used to be a meme on the internet for Comiket where like people used to talk about like Nanoha Kambai, which is like Nanoha sold out because it used to do so well, and all of the circles that used to sell it, or the people that couldn't get the stuff, they would complain and they would put the hashtag like Nanoha sold out. So because of that, it became a meme at the time, and then that recently happened with Chokaugyahime, it seems, because apparently the staff sold a otsukarebon for the event. So basically all of the people that worked on the anime, or most of them at least, they came together and they put all of their commentary and some like additional artwork they did into a book and sold it unofficially as a circle at the event. If you're gonna ask me if that's even legal to do, please don't. We don't want to dig up like a can of worms that could be potentially problematic. Like many series have done it before, but you know, it's usually one of those things where it's just like kind of iffy in the first place. It's in this very weird gray zone to begin with, and so yeah. But that said, as you can imagine with how popular this movie was, there were a lot of people that were queuing for it, and I don't think I've seen a queue this long in quite a while now. Like to explain how bad the queue is, the queue started at the northwest corner of the South Hall. It stretched from that end all the way to the northeast. It then snaked around the corner and went down the entire east wall, and then it went down the entire south wall of the building, and then when it reached the other end of the south wall, it then snaked 4 times at the south wall because they just realized that they couldn't just box in the entire building by blocking it off on all sides. So yeah, the queue itself, and mind you, this was was at like maybe 11:30, like an hour into the event, and the queue was insane. Like, this is, I think, longer than many of the queues I saw back in the day as well, where you had a queue that would stretch the entire length of Hall 1 to 3 of the East Hall, for example. Granted, it's not the first one that did this, but it has been a while since I've seen something to this level, to be honest. I don't know if I'd call it cool, because I would have wanted to buy the book as well, but I couldn't buy the book because it's sold out. There are people on the internet spreading misinformation about how they released the PDF after selling the book to fuck the scalpers up. That's not true. The PDF has been up online since even before Comiket, and releasing it didn't fuck up the scalpers because people still managed to sell the book on Mercari for 20,000 yen. Like, there are actual like sold transactions completed for the books as well, and quite a few of them. So the books was sold upwards of 10 times the original price. So suffice to say, it didn't really stop the scalpers. I mean, I guess it's no surprise. I don't think releasing the PDF online would really deter scalpers in the first place, nor people from buying the book at all. Cause like, if people saw the online version of it, I feel like that would have the inverse effect, where now the collector physical version is even more valuable because they can't sell this on Melon Books. I think like that would actually cause like actual legal potential issues, which is why they didn't. Now that everyone has a digital version, having the physical version has even more premium, because now your physical version, its meaning will get across to even more people. And I feel like the sculpt prices on Mercari actually reflect this. So like, I don't know what these people overseas are even talking about. Like, they're trying to rewrite what happened a day ago at the time when they made that post. But yeah, so suffice to say, it was really cool seeing how well the book did. I mean, Chokaugyahime feels like it's just doing very well in general. So it's very amazing that it actually did this well for the doujin content as well. So good for them. Aside from that, there was also one for the Needy Girl anime as well. I know maybe not a lot of people liked it as much. As someone who enjoyed the original game a lot, I realized that the animators for it also released an otsukarebon, so I went to purchase that. As for my opinions on the anime, as I've watched the whole thing, I feel like they kind of like lost the sauce a little bit towards the end of it. Although I guess that's to be no surprise, because of the fact that like the original like creative direction given by Narada probably wasn't enough to get them through, since he got removed from the project midway. So yeah, like if they were trying to finish his vision, I don't think they managed to land it. But that said, I did think it was very interesting for what it was. I do think that there were interesting themes that they were trying to get across, but a lot of it towards the end felt a little muddled, so it felt like a bit of a waste of potential. But that said, Choten is always cute, so yeah, her and Rain, like the art in general is all really good, and the animators I feel like did a really good job with it overall. So in terms of that, I have no complaints, because you know, everyone involved with it, they did a fairly good job in my opinion nonetheless. So a lot of it, the stuff in the book, I still am quite happy to see nonetheless. Well, also the front cover is like foiled, you can't really see it across that, I think. But that's it, that's all I have for you guys for today. Thank you all for watching. Yeah, my legs, they are still killing me, so I'm gonna go take a rest now. This video will probably come out the week after Comiket when you see this. So hello from 1 week in the past. I am a true time traveler, as you can see. But that's it. Yeah, thank you to the people who help to support the channel. It's thanks to you guys that, and all of you watching as well, that I'm still even making videos in the first place. So thank you to every single one of you for watching, and I hope this gives you all like more of a view of all the different things you can expect to see at Comiket. Because like personally, I feel like the idea of like the animators for an anime releasing like their own like staff books there, the otsukarebons, they are increasing in number. Or maybe it's just that there's so much content out there now, like in general, that it just feels like there's more, because with the increase in the number of animes that exist every season, and the number of animes that have existed across the years over the seasons, there's just more stuff that is turning up at the event. So maybe that's why as well. It could just be my imagination. But overall, there's that, you know, there's people who make books about bazookas, Magic the Gathering, humidity of events, so on and so forth. So now, if you want to explore things outside of what you might expect, this might be a good event nonetheless to explore for that, because of the fact that the event is so massive that you'll probably find something you weren't expecting to, especially if you're more on the adventurous side. But that said, that's all for today, and until next time, take care and bye-bye.